One last thing I want to touch on, only because I love XAML, and this is XAML related, is we are going to take a quick look at WPF. It's worth knowing WPF with .NET Core 3 now has .NET Core support. Great. Okay. This does not make WPF cross-platform. Nothing in the least. This is still a Windows desktop application. It runs on Windows, only on Windows. The benefits of .NET Core is you now get all of the performance improvements that have come over .NET Framework. Simple example is system.link. Your skip take methods on Framework do a lot of iterations. On Core, those things are now optimized for like list implementations. Great. You pick that up for free by switching over. Should you switch your app to .NET Core? Not unless you have a significant forward investment in the app coming. Okay? It is a decent amount of work to go through and port an app, especially an older one, from .NET Framework to .NET Core. Definitely look at it. It's worthwhile evaluating. But understand that it is a significant investment without a lot of gains. Okay? But going forward, everything is going to be .NET Core. So if you're building a brand new app, definitely target Core over Framework. Okay? If you've just got an app in maintenance mode, it's probably not worth porting this thing over to Framework. The last thing that you pick up, and this isn't necessarily WPF specific, because Windows Forms gets this as well. You can now run Windows Forms with .NET Core if you want. But you now have single file deployments. So previously, if you were going to go out and deploy a WPF app, you either end up writing an installer, do some sort of zip file with a whole bunch of stuff in it. You use a third party, PostSharp, Foddy, something to be able to bundle everything into a single exe to be able to push something out. All of that's now built in for you inside of .NET Core. Okay? There are 3 things that you have to do to go through and turn it on. You have to set a particular runtime, because once you say, I want to bundle this stuff, you have to actually tell it what you're targeting. Okay? The whole idea of any CPU and JITting it, not with the single file executable. This Boolean for publish single file just turns the feature on. And then the last one is this publish trimmed. This used to be something that existed inside of the mono library that would actually walk through your IL, figure out what APIs you weren't using, and strip that stuff out. So if your app uses a lot of reflection, this can bite you, and you need to go through and look at the configuration for telling it which features you turn on and off. Xamarin developers are already familiar with this. Our linker goes through and does this and strips out a lot of our SDK APIs that we aren't using, and occasionally it strips out stuff that we actually said, no, we really are using this, trust me, I'm just getting it via reflection, you just can't see that I'm using this API. Okay? But if you're going to publish a single file executable, you probably want to turn on publish trimmed, because especially for like simple apps, like maybe a simple WPF or a console app, this can easily cut your size down by 100 meg, I think is what this app drops down to. This is just a simple hello world. But this is all that it takes to go through and do it. The last thing that you do need to know, you do have, if you're going to do the publish from inside of Visual Studio, you do have to rebuild the application first. Okay? When you go through and do the publish, we'll fire this guy up. You'll notice the configuration here, despite the fact that it's hiding, is pointed at release. So if you were to do like the .NET publish command from the command line, normally it will do a build for you unless you pass the no build flag. Inside of Visual Studio, it's not going to automatically do this build for you. It's just going to try to publish out. And you will end up getting errors if you don't have a build done already. Okay? So make sure that you have a build, even if there's not code changes, if it's just the CS prod changes, you do need to rebuild, because the files that the single file publish uses get done as part of that build process. Okay? But then you end up with a single executable. Fine. That tab doesn't work, but we can dive in, release, .NET Core app, target framework, underneath the publish, and I've got a single standard executable with a PDB for the symbols if I want it. Okay, questions? Comments, heckling? Kelly? So can you target multiple runtime identifiers? Yes, rather than just the single runtime identifier, there's also a runtime identifiers. I believe it's semicolon separated. Don't quote me on that. I think. Yeah, Yeah, the common ones, there are specific ones if you want to target Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10, but the more generic ones are Win x64, Win x86, WinARM, and WinARM64.